Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the SITS webinar in conjunction with Valiantis. My name is David Maguire. I'm Event Director of SITS. Now, we can see the numbers going up as more people are joining the session, and just want to run through a couple of things before we kick off with the team from Valiantis. So firstly, don't worry if you miss anything at all. The webinar will be available to download from our website by the end of the week. And also, we really encourage you to ask questions. So you'll see in the toolbar, there's a Q&A button. Pop your questions in there, and then we'll pick those up at the end of the session. That's everything from me. So what I'll do now is pass over to Laura from Valiantis, who will kick off. And we hope you enjoy the session, and I will see you at the end.
Thank you, David. Hello, everybody. I'm Laura Holton. I'll be your host and moderator for today's session. We're pleased to be here with SITS following our attendance at SITS 23 earlier back in May. Before we kick off, I'd just like to say a big thank you for all taking the time to join us for Beyond IT, Empower, Excellent Service for All Teams. So we've got a truly exciting session ahead of us that touches upon the key elements you can use for your to make your engagement with business teams actually work. Understand how to guide others to emphasize customer value, and focus on the three most important capabilities of your tool to help teams deliver the most value. Not forgetting a live Q&A with our experts, where they'll answer how do you approach HR to get them onto your service management tooling, and much more. So without further ado, let me introduce you to my colleagues and guest speakers for today. Leading the session is Valiantis' Global Head of the ITSM practice, Erin Collins. She has spent more than 20 years in IT across multiple industries, including banking, media, and insurance. Erin has also held a variety of roles in the ITSM space, including help desk manager, application manager, and as a data analyst, she submitted a patented algorithm for software retirement. She holds certifications in ITIL 3 and ITIL 4, as well as Six Sigma, and will be taking us through an entire journey in terms of service management for today. And joining us for the Q&A is Bav Makwana, Professional Services Manager at Valiantis. Bav comes from a heavy-set ITSM background, having worked in roles ranging from major incident management to head of IT operations. He is passionate about service management and holds both ITIL 4 Managing Professional and ITIL 4 Strategic Leader certificates. Bav works in Valiantis' delivery and pre-sales teams, mostly covering service management engagements. So needless to say, between the two, they are very capable of answering all questions. So as David mentioned, please feel free to put anything in terms of questions, experiences, any topics you want to cover, please pop them in questions and we'll answer them later. So without further ado, I shall pass over to Erin. The floor is yours.
Thank you. This is going to take me a moment or two to just flip screens. So let me do that quickly and pay no attention to the background. Here we go. Laura, Bav, everyone, can you see my screen all right?
You are good to go.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, welcome everyone. And I'm really excited to take you on a journey, first through the Wayback Machine, where we're going to start with a little bit of theory. We'll briefly land in the now, where the market for business teams is. Then we'll jump into some practical tooling capabilities for your future projects with business teams. And then we'll end with how to help business teams reimagine the way they work to connect teams and to accelerate productivity. So first, what were you doing in 2008? I was with Bank America at the time, and I was managing dashboards and data analytics in an IT operations team for card services. The bank had recently implemented telecommuting, We all had Cisco routers in our home offices, but we didn't do video meetings. Imagine the bandwidth. January 21st was Black Monday, and Lehman Brothers collapsed later that year. Can you believe that the Agile Manifesto was 7 years old? And the Large Hadron Collider powered up at CERN up the road in Geneva. For the first time, my sons were old enough to vote in a presidential election, and they helped Barack Obama become the first African-American to be elected president of the United States. Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt made history at the Beijing Summer Olympics. As Laura said, my name is Erin Collins, and I'm the global head of the ITSM practice at Valiantis. And I have the humble honor of guiding a talented group of ITSM specialized consultants and solution engineers. Today, we're an Atlassian Platinum partner, but in 2008, we were a mere 2 years old. We built the first version of Jira Service Desk, and we've been helping shape Jira Service Management for over 10 years. In April of that same year, 2008, Harvard Business Review wrote the 4 things a service business must get right. And while this paper focused externally, we of course realize that we need to use those same models when we turn our gaze internally. HBR proposed a service model composed of elements derived from the product model. Importantly, in the context of a service offering, service designers do better to focus on the experiences customers want to have. That means strategically identifying a trade-off. We are not going to focus on delivering this part of our service well, so that we can focus on delivering an outstanding service experience over here, because that is what our customers value most. A new term has entered the service management lexicon recently: experience. Oh, we've been talking about experience for years, right? But the wider ITSM and customer service market have been talking about this more urgently for a few years, and this isn't going away. And in fact, I think you'll see that it's going to increase. You may already be seeing experience level agreements, or XLAs, creeping into your conversations. Business teams are looking for inspiration and excellence, and may already be thinking of themselves as a service delivery team. You know, the cost of excellence of great service management experience traditionally in IT expresses itself as a cost savings or a cost avoidance. So let's say one of your sales team's goals in service excellence, right, is enablement. And you know that self-service is totally the way to go for this. And hopefully you know this because you've asked the employees or the customers and they've told you. You have to create a situation in which your internal customer will prefer the do-it-yourself capability because it is so good over a readily available alternative such as email. This requires homework and investigation, not guesswork. So for your users, it might mean more than just a well-written how-to article or a, click this and you can have your training. But that might not be even it at all. It could be chat tools. It could be automated personalized training, generative AI that is really at the heart of customers' desired experience related to that sales team's goals. This often brings up the shift left conversation, right? In IT, and I know this because guys, I've been there. We sometimes think we know what the right thing is. The only way to do the right things right is to ask what the right things are. Then do those things well. The third thing that HBR identified was employee management. So that's you, me, the service teams we work with, our fellow employees. What makes us and our employees reasonably able to achieve excellence? What makes us reasonably motivated to achieve excellence? I mean, there are any number of answers to those questions, but we're talking today about enterprise service management and ITSM tooling. So my answer will involve the processes and tools supporting the services your business teams provide. Equipping employees with the right kit to satisfy service expectations sets them up for success. Business teams who deliver services internally should be able to achieve more, faster, visibly, safely by leveraging the capabilities of your ITSM tools. Extending your ITSM tooling to business teams is a ripe opportunity to help them reimagine their ways of working. Like a collaboration team, a collaboration tool for dreaming up big ideas, transparency of dependent requests and processes. Who doesn't want to see what's happening upstream or parallel? Automation. Their excitement will spread, and the other teams they work with will ask for this shiny thing. This exact thing happened with our customer EDSN. EDSN is the Energy Data Services in Netherlands. And the service management team recently implemented Jira Service Management as their primary ITSM tool. Within 30 days, other satellite teams were approaching this IT service manager for access to the tool to help them deliver their services. It was that successful. So finally, customer management. Let's say these are the end users of business teams and the business team services. You and your other employees are those internal customers, but it could be external customers too. Your service design for them must carefully consider their level of training, their level of familiarity. This is going to drive their experience of your service to them. You can talk your business teams through a thought exercise by starting with two key questions. What is the behavior you want your service customers to exhibit? And what experience do you want your service customers to have? Let's take the behavior question. One of my favorite examples is when it comes to request channels. All channels, okay, here's a shocker, right? All channels do not have to be equal. If our emphasis is influencing users toward a virtual agent, then we prioritize the requests coming through that channel. We deprioritize the email channel. There's that trade-off again. And then asking about and creating the experience those users expect using that channel. I know I've talked about experience a lot, sorry. I keep going there. So let's fast forward to the 2020s. A recent Forrester report refers to enterprise service management as the universal system of connected work. And it's especially relevant when you're standardizing on the Atlassian platform. When it comes to leveraging ITSM tools, Percipio identified that business teams tend to adopt incident, knowledge management, assets, self-service, and service request processes more than any others. And these are the practices we're all familiar with. But here's the thing. It isn't necessary or even required for business teams to adopt ITSM or ITIL terminology. The underlying concepts remain the same. The usual capabilities in each of these practices are just as important to business teams, regardless of what their incident happens to look like. And boy, I tell you what, it's going to look so different from an IT incident. But we've gone a bit esoteric, so let's get specific. For example, how the heck do we do this? Well, that's a good question. And it's a pretty straightforward thing, but as technologists, we have to make sure that we are talking the business's language. And that means not overwhelming the business team with a lot of jargon. Remember what I said earlier about ITSM and ITIL jargon and language? They don't need that. We need to talk in their language. We need to focus on the capabilities the team can use to accelerate their productivity. to connect with other teams, and to reimagine their ways of working. In Jira Service Management, my 3 favorite capabilities that I think really help accelerate business teams succeed are the 3 A's. Now, business teams don't want the tools to get in the way of their work. They just want it to flow. And the 3 A's do that: approvals, automation, and assets. It really is what these teams don't know that they crave, or maybe they do. The scenario I'll be using today is an employee onboarding request in Jira Service Management. And we're going to begin with approvals. Now, approvals are a source of pain, but they're also a pretty inevitable requirement in our organizations today. So why make it more difficult than it needs to be? Jira Service Management actually makes it less difficult by putting approvals in the help center instead of hiding them inside the tool. And I almost gave away the show by clicking a little bit ahead, but let me do this now. So this little video here, this is an onboarding request for a new employee, and it includes a request for a new office, and that requires an approval. The approver is not a Jira user. They are not a licensed agent. The approver simply went to the help center from an email notification and clicks the approve or the decline button. Simple, no fuss, no additional licenses. And this also works when there are multiple approvals required, whether in consensus or unanimous, without all the faffing about with calendars and meetings. Now, granted, it's 2023, but your business team might still be new to workflow tools like this, and they might have difficulty trusting the tool. We worked with a people and culture team recently who felt significant anxiety about automatically sending out any kind of approval notification, any approval request, because they thought the tool would start randomly approving stuff. They didn't want that. They were very scared about that. So to help with that, we were able to persuade them to get started with a simple approval. It had lots of volume, but it was very low risk. And you can use a group to identify those qualified approvers. Or, and in this case, if the team feels that they need a little bit more control, they can manually add the approver to a request in an ad hoc basis. The need for approvals can show up all over the place. And with HR or people and culture, this might be around training or resource requests or something as important as payroll changes. In an insurance claims team that I worked with, moving a claim through a workflow was a really good fit for Jira Service Management. And we all know how it feels to get a claim approved. Anyway, through the gate of one or more approvals, there's typically a series of follow-up actions. This is where our second A comes up to that: automation. The capabilities around automation have never been slouchy in Jira, and they continue to get better and better and better. And more recently, Atlassian enabled the ability for automation to fire off a request to AWS documents for action. My first thought was, wow, let's create a virtual machine for a new employee. Except that I'm not really very creative, and I think you folks could probably do a lot better than me. But in this example, we're actually using an Amazon SNS webhook to call and raise awareness of a VIP issue. And in this case, because the requester is the company's CEO. And because we built this as a global automation, the rule isn't specific to any one Jira space or project, but across the entire platform of requests. Because company CEO, right? To learn more about these types of Atlassian automation actions, the blue QR code on your left takes you to their comprehensive documentation. And for more information about the AWS System Manager, if you haven't dived into that recently, And their automation reference, the orange QR code on your right, will take you right to that. I can also re-show these QR codes after the presentation as well, if you're interested. So with employee onboarding, there will be criteria to bring visibility across all the teams who are involved in the logistics of bringing employees into the organization. In our example, the people and culture team need to see the disposition of each of their tasks, from creating security keys, to ordering laptops, to assigning cloud subscriptions. And some tasks are going to be dependent on other tasks. So we establish this transparency using automation to create and link related tasks to that onboarding request. People and culture may not care too much to know the finer details, but they are confident in the knowledge that all the pieces and parts are getting done. They can see the statuses. They can see all of these connections. The onboarding process isn't the only way to help the HR or people and culture for them to automate. I mean, there are lots of independent processes where automation can be used to enhance workflow. Employee inquiry management is a good opportunity. Asking an employee to input just 1 or 2 extra pieces of information can allow the creation of sophisticated automation rules to pass the inquiry to either the right people and culture associate or beyond to another team if that's appropriate. Automation rules are almost as easy to configure as approvals. And I'm telling you, approvals are dead simple. But again, you might run into the I don't trust this tool issue when you start talking about automating tasks or processes with your business team, regardless of whether it's people and culture or marketing, you know, the legal team. Nowadays, to be honest, they might come to you and ask if Jira Service Management could maybe calculate their Excel spreadsheet for them instead. And actually, there's probably an app for that. But we call them rules, and they're simply automated actions within the platform. Rules have 3 components: triggers, so listen for something to happen; conditions, continue if a criteria is or is not met; and actions, take action. You can use the onboard library to get started, or strike out on your own and create a new rule from scratch, like we did with our CIO VIP rule. Please give your rule or your automation a sensible name. Don't just say Joe's automation for XYZ. In addition to bringing all of this visibility to our stakeholders, automation is helping us create entries in our asset management or CMDB in the background. Entries which are linked to our new employee. And that brings me to the 3rd A, assets. Oh, asset management. With a click, our people and culture team can immediately view all of the attributes that have been part of the onboarding process because they are present in our asset management database. You can see that on the screen, how that all links together. We've mentioned how important visibility is to all stakeholders because tomorrow and beyond, IT support and operations team can see these attributes on any future requests that are created by and for this new employee. But there's more to it than that. By providing this central repository of IT-related information, a CMDB can help break down silos between different departments. Everyone from IT to sales to HR can potentially access relevant data, promoting collaboration, data-driven decision-making. The CMDB, or the asset management tooling, can be used to manage information about vendors, contracts, contract renewals, with timings, and triggers. It can be used to identify and manage physical and digital training resources, such as presentations and video components, which can be logged with ownership, review cadences, and a record of when it was used. Coming back to our onboarding request, the short videos earlier, and the one we just saw, these are all using the people schema or the people CMDB from our asset management database. To create a CMDB for the people and culture team, you might start with the question, what are the highest level entities in your organization? What are the highest, the top level things? And this is probably going to be people and teams. Much like any database though, you might also have reference tables or metadata for items like regions, offices, departments. For legal teams, for example, contracts and their related owners, parties, and review cadences could be also considered assets. Other assets for them might be intellectual property, litigation cases, general legal documents and library management. What about patents? All of these are assets to an organization such as this. My tongue is getting out of control here a little bit. But let's push the boat out. What about a theme park? What are the assets in a theme park? I mean, the obvious assets are the attractions, right? Costumes, fleet vehicles. I mean, thinking about these kind of fringe cases can really help inspire your thinking, your business team's thinking about current use cases. Here's the one rule to remember, or the one to rule them all. Isn't that how that goes, right? Any object you put into assets can be used in tickets. It's not even a limiting rule. So let me show you how that works. All of the items in this screenshot, bounded by a yellow box, I put those yellow boxes there, by the way, they're not in the tool. So all of those items in the screenshot that are bounded by a yellow box are from our asset management database, or CMDB if you prefer. Now, our new employee, Mr. Bluth, has multiple attributes, including office and department. Let me show you how this gets put together. So first, we create the objects and the references in our asset management database. Then we create the assets fields, the custom fields to hold those assets into a ticket. Finally, we add those custom fields to a request form, a form that's served up on your help center or your portal. 3 steps. It's as easy as that. Now, when requesters visit your portal, they select the relevant value from the fields on the form in the portal. And then we use automation to create the record and add the attributes in our CMDB or our asset management database. 3 steps, 2 results. And no kidding, it really is that simple. I was asked recently at an event in London, in fact, it was at CITS in May, how do you approach the people and culture team? How do you approach the HR team to get them onto your tooling? Well, that question really could apply to any non-IT team. And the answer is, sorry, it depends. In my experience, unless you have a champion in the team, some kind of advocacy within the team, or something is really on fire, they'll usually come to you. And lately, they may be inspired by this vision of AI and things, all of these new toys and tools that are available out there. They may come to you even faster. But then what? We've learned a few things from workshopping and implementing Jira Service Management with non-technical service teams. Getting traction at the beginning can be the hardest part, even when the requesting team is very eager to participate. We all know, but it bears repeating, we have to lead with empathy. What does that even mean? Listening, and then listening some more. And you know the old saying, 2 ears, 1 mouth, used proportionally. And I've repeated this a couple of times in this presentation. Jargon and technical talk are alienating. Check your language before you enter. Eventually, we'll probably get the hang of whatever special lingo your ITSM tool uses. But until then, leave it at your desk. Learn what their language is. If they don't call them tickets, but they call things cases, talk about the cases that they can move through a workflow, not the tickets. If people submit requests, call them requests, regardless of what that might look like in IT. For the business team, it's a request or a case, or it's work. Do short discovery sessions. Don't insist on trying to discover everything in a single full day. And in fact, 2 hours max, and leave some space between those sessions. Another recent people and culture team project didn't know quite what they wanted from the solution. And that's natural. And also why short discovery sessions are best. They see you doing amazing things with your workflow and they want to be a part of that, but that's pretty much all they know. We want some. So this team, they didn't really know what they want. And it's why these short discovery sessions are really beneficial. So we listened for keywords during those sessions. And the one that came up frequently was, but we aren't sure what it's going to look like. And how will it behave? How will our users send documents to us? We learned that the most effective way to help them visualize their requirements and to further articulate their needs was to right away quick build one of their use cases and then record it with some narration. And then keep doing that. I mean, if videos aren't in your wheelhouse, do a live demo. This is what I did with an insurance client who was building a training program for their offshore team. The first video we did, first demo we did, showing them how this would work from the trainee's perspective, helped send the right message, that we listened. And it was also a marker indicating our willingness to show and have them involved in each iteration. So in fact, we live demoed with this one, we live demoed every sequence of the project in very small bite-sized pieces, and they loved it. They got exactly what they needed from the project. For the people and culture team that I mentioned previously, the narrated videos led to an asynchronous working pattern. We would send them their use case video ahead of the next discovery session. The stakeholders then had time to digest it and then come back with feedback in the next discovery session. Now, that pattern might not work for all clients, but it was brilliant for this one, and you have to sometimes find your own way through that. But that's definitely one of the ways that we would recommend approaching that with those teams. Small bites, demos, get them interactive. So drink your own champagne and serve some to the business team. What do I mean by that? Use the tools. In our case, Jira and Jira Service Management to share the tasks, the Kanban board, the roadmap of the work. Get them involved in working on the project. You know, not every task is a technical task, right? If they're inclined, you could teach them some of those technical tasks in Jira Service Management. Which brings me to training. Keep training top of mind during the entire engagement with your business team customer. No kidding. If you've done all the other things, your acceptance testing and your final training will go very smoothly. In the example on screen is the roadmap that we put together for a people and culture team within Jira. And training was the very first ticket we created. And it's that purple bar right across the top. And it crosses all segments of the work. And it serves as a big, bright reminder of the importance Valiantis puts on enabling the client. We have covered a ton of ground today, both theory and practice. And I want to leave you with these final thoughts. New tools and new approaches offer an opportunity for teams to reimagine their ways of working. It can be scary. So remember not to overwhelm business teams with a lot of techno jargon. Great ITSM solutions are known for being able to bypass silos and connect teams by creating highly sought after visibility. Laura, I think I'm about finished here. Why don't I pass this back to you?
Thank you so much, Erin. As you discussed, it's human nature. We want to contribute and we want to be productive. Bringing along your service teams onto Jira Service Management enables them to accelerate their productivity. And then you pay attention to the technical details and help your business teams see the art of the possible. So now let's explore more of what's possible as we head into our Q&A with Erin and Bav. Seen kind of as we've gone throughout, there's been some questions, which has been fantastic. And obviously there's still plenty more time to ask questions. So as we're going through, if it sparks any questions of the topics that others have asked, please find the Q&A to the bottom of your screen and ask away, and we'll follow up with anything that we can't answer in the next section of the session. So why don't we start with the theme of getting business buy-in with the question, how do we within IT or technology enable ESM for business teams? Erin, Bav, who would like to go first?
Yeah, sure.
I can take that one.
Yeah, I check that. And good morning for everyone who's on the call. Erin, thanks a lot for the presentation and demo. It's really great. So to answer this question on how to enable business teams for ESM, I think echoing some of the points you mentioned previously around the importance of having a business advocate or an advocate within the business team really helps drive the kind of the requirements forward and almost that desire to bring some improvement to that team so you're on a centralized platform. So the champion is really important. The advocate, from what we've experienced in the past and what we've helped with business teams with, really helps with determining the requirements as well. It's really hard when you're almost trying to kind of sell a solution to a business team who almost doesn't want it, or there isn't someone there who kind of feels the need for it. But if someone's there who already sees the need for it, or sees the awesome power of the product itself, then it really helps then with driving the requirements out, and then they can be utilized for things like testing as well, and later can be used to act as a super user for things like training and support as well. So we've definitely seen that the most successful projects, certainly from an ESM standpoint, have a advocate or a key stakeholder or a champion within that business team. And then the other point to mention, I think, to echo from the presentation, around creating a short proof of concept. So once you've got some form of requirements, rather than going into full-fledged delivery, start with a proof of concept. So start small, so you will which will really help kind of build on that stakeholder buy-in, obviously the advocates buy-in as well for the need and want of the product. It should help define some critical success factors as well, and also help to define or identify the key features and functions that will help deliver value to that business team faster, right? That's what kind of ITIL and service management's all around, is around driving and delivering that value faster. I
think, Bev, I think one of the most common questions that I've run across, and I don't know if you've run across this as well, I think you probably have, is how am I going to get that work? How's that work going to come to me? Do I have to still email these attachments? Do I have to still, walk up to this person? And I think those proof of concepts can actually help answer that question, show them, what that might look like.
Yeah, absolutely that. Yeah, it definitely is a common use case. And one of the things that a lot of business teams love doing is seeing how you can centralize that work. And as we know, with service management, Jira Service Management, everyone loves the customer portal, which helps centralize the kind of work, the inflow, the input into a business team, and then also centralize things like notifications or communications, whether that's to the user community, to a approver, like we saw earlier in the example, or to the team that's providing support. So yeah, that's great.
What else we got there, Laura?
We got more, don't worry.
Okay.
Someone else is asking, I have a business team that wants to adopt Jira Service Management. Should I use the ITSM template?
Oh, that's a great question. Atlassian provides a lot of different templates. They've got in Jira Service Management, there's the usual kind of ITSM template that's got major incident management and change enablement and all of these things. But you know what? JSM also includes a lot of business related templates that don't necessarily include change management and change calendars and Ops Genie and status page, and they're not maybe working at that kind of level. So the enterprise service management templates, and just in case just in case there's any question about what ESM is, or enterprise service management, I know the title, we're talking about kind of beyond IT. A lot, different people call it different things though. Some people call it, we call it enterprise service management. It's digitizing the business, giving them workflow tools to help them, do their jobs better, faster, to create more time, to be more productive, to create more time, to work on additional things. Some people might call it business transformation, digital business transformation. It all comes under this kind of ESM, or enterprise service management umbrella. And some of the key features of teams doing this kind of work is work intake through a customer portal. A lot of times, like with claims teams, there are service level agreements they have to meet, regulatory SLAs that they have to abide by. Bev mentioned notifications. We've talked about automations. There are simple out-of-the-box workflows that can be modified for a business team if they don't, follow a, start, in progress, finish, simple workflow like that. Add approvals. Add, a little bit more complexity. But speaking from that place of ITIL, and those guiding principles, start where you are and keep it simple. Start where you are. Don't go over the cliff. So no, back to the original question. No, you don't have to use the ITSM template for a business team, especially in Jira Service Management. There's a legal template, there's a marketing template, there's an HR template, there's a general service management template that's a little bit more simplified than the traditional ITSM one. So there are a lot of different options, and it's worth just having a poke around to see which one might be the best fit for that particular business team. There's always building it from scratch, but we like to use something to build on, generally speaking. Bev, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I think the only thing I was going to add to this as I was thinking about this was it's great that in Jira Service Management, they've created these additional templates rather than just having one service management template. And the reason I say this is we probably all use a system that has more features and functionalities than we're allowed to use. So for example, I know in Valiantis, we've got a bunch of tools, which are like HR tools that may be used in your company as well. But there's tools which have more functions in there that you're meant to use or have access to, or even have any sort of linkage in them. So they're just kind of redundant elements of a product. But the good thing about the service management templates that Atlassian has and that's built into the product is you choose the one that's right for you, right? And you don't over deliver too much functionality, which then causes confusion for the end user, right? Whether that be the person who's actually managing the tickets, the workflow, the input and the output of issues, requests, or the customer at the end who's sitting in front of the portal. So yeah, I'll definitely say have a look at the different templates, identify the right one. And if you think that there's a template which has a little bit more extra features, but you don't need all of them, the really cool thing with Atlassian's Jira Service Management is you can just toggle off some of the features, right? You can even do that in IT Service Management. You can have the IT Service Management template, but if you don't want to use, I think, change calendars, for example, you can toggle it off, or incident management, toggle it off. So yeah, we'll try.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Well, the next question takes us over to the topic of experience level management. One of our attendees has asked, as my company is becoming maturer with its processes across the organization, it is interested in understanding the customer experience for internal users, which helps with internal objectives. Can we measure XLAs with JSM?
You know, Laura, this is my favorite topic right now.
Oh yes, experience is your forte, definitely.
Yeah. So first of all, what I want to say is yes, and I'll come back to that in a minute. So for those who aren't familiar, XLA is short for experience level agreements. XLA is a framework for managing and measuring service and customer experience. One or more XLAs are a way for a team or an organization to objectively reflect the employee or the consumer experience of a service consumed or delivered. I know we say experience and we think, oh, that's very subjective. And that's why this framework exists. So when we think about our experience, say, let's just say sky, right? Sky. It's an accumulation of moments over time. And it includes all of the interactions that we've had with their support, their engineers, their platform, their equipment. Now, I've been a Sky customer for about 5 years, and I'd say I was pretty happy, even though not every single support transaction was amazing. As another way of thinking about it, I've been married for 33 years. The experience has obviously been good enough, even though not every single day was smooth sailing. It's about that accumulation of moments over time. So with XLAs, it's really important to remember that XLAs don't replace SLAs, or service level agreements, but an XLA can include those SLAs. They're comprised of multiple inputs: SLAs, other KPI data, other technical data. I mean, there are still some objective operational things that can only be measured using SLAs. So an XLA can also include technical data, such as, let's say, input from a digital experience platform like Nexthink. And I'm thinking of things here like the boot time of a machine, for example. browser hangs, things like that, application, stoppages. I mean, a business team might not use technical data such as that, and they might focus exclusively on SLAs. Now, a really important element of the XLA framework is surveys. And you might well ask, what about CSAT? Pretty much all ITSM tools, including Jira Service Management, include a customer satisfaction survey capability. But CSAT surveys, the way they are all implemented, I would say 95% of them, are transactional. And they are all right for managing operational trends and issues. I mean, the kind of surveys that we want for our experience management and for our XLAs are proper, randomly sampled surveys with best practice, customized wording, and scaled scoring that ask about experience with a service. But you don't need it to. You don't need your ITSM tool to do that. There are other services that do this, and most of us have access to Google and Microsoft Forms. Those are perfectly capable of delivering the kind of surveys you'd want to use. So back to the original question, I said yes, and a team doesn't necessarily implement XLAs instead of SLAs. They complement. XLAs are implemented on top of SLAs. So for XLAs, Jira Service Management brings many, if not all, of the SLAs that can support an XLA goal. This is feeling like alphabet soup, you guys. I'm really sorry. You can also integrate other systems and their KPIs with Jira Service Management and create an experience dashboard, which can be shared with stakeholders. So yes, you can support an XLA initiative using Jira Service Management. Absolutely, 100% you can. Anyone, you want to add anything, Beth?
No, I think you've covered that well. Nothing to add on that.
Yeah, if anybody wants to talk about experience management, give me a call.
Thank you so much, Erin. So moving on to another question, we've still got a few more to go through, and we've still got a little bit of time, which is great. How do we connect existing ESM platforms such as HR tools to JSM?
Yeah, sure. I'll take that one, Erin, to give you a bit of a break there. So when we talk about integrations into Atlassian's like product set, there is a wealth of tool sets on the marketplace that can either be pre-configured connectors or integrations. So I'd definitely say have a look at the marketplace to see what's already available there. Now that might be from Atlassian's marketplace, or it might be from the product you're the kind of source destination. So the HR tool, for example, I think was in this case. So it may be from that system, or it as a connector out, or it could be from Atlassian's marketplace itself, so going into the tool. The marketplace is constantly growing, and I don't think we've come across a product we can't integrate to. Certainly, let's say a cloud-based application is fairly simple, fairly lightweight. Even internal tools as well, where we've either have a connector which is pre-configured and built for Jira Service Management, or using another supplier product which allows that connectivity. And we've also done connections in different ways as well. So sometimes they're bi-directional, sometimes they're just a single kind of a single method, like a push or a pull into a Jira ticket. So it is possible. Obviously, it depends on the tool as well. I'd say again that most have a connection method. Again, I don't think we've come across one that we can't connect to, but I don't want to cover everything, because I know certainly there's some legacy HR tools out there, for example, or legacy finance tools, which sometimes do cause a bit of a challenge, right? But we can work around it normally. One thing I would say from the experience on the delivery side, when you're going live with a project or you're implementing, is if you are integrating certainly a HR tool into your Jira Service Management to create an ESM platform, make sure you involve your sort of change and your security team nice and early. It's more than likely they'll need to give a level of sign-off, whether that's related to the product, the supplier, the platform you're integrating and using to make sure it's vetted through its compliance and controls, but then also around the data you might be trying to translate in as well, right? We saw people records earlier. So if you were migrating or had a sync for people data into the service management tool, you may want to ensure that the data, when it's in Jira Service Management, is locked off, right? Is in a secure environment, rather than the whole ecosystem accessing that content. So it's definitely worthwhile. It's definitely a good thing to engage change and security nice and early. Definitely before go live. You may need to do that during that kind of solution design phase when you're kind of thinking about the architecture of how this thing would work together. If you wait to the last minute, and we've experienced this before, so we can talk from experience, that if this kind of delays and it happens at a later stage, it can sometimes delay go live because it needs a second level of approval from a security, compliance, governance perspective, and so you may not meet your go live date as intended. So I'll definitely say keep those front of mind, but generally in terms of integrations, I think either the marketplace has it covered, or get in contact if you've got certainly a strange one, a challenging one which isn't quite there yet, and we can look at other ways to integrate too.
Yeah, really good point about getting things vetted through security and governance, and early and often would be early and often, right?
Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah, well, I'm going to sneak through one last question before we pull this session to a close. Is how do you get all the assets into the CMDB and keep them up to date?
How do you get all the assets into the CMDB and keep them up to date? Okay, that's two questions. There are, I would say there are a couple of, there are multiple different ways to get data into the CMDB. One way is to do it manually. That's the old school way by CSV. There are some great platforms out there that will perform discovery, not just Jira Service Management. Jira Service Management does come with asset discovery tool, and it's very good, and it does a really great job, and it'll create that asset management database or that CMDB for you. One that we're very excited about also is Device42. That is a fabulous tool. And that will do a much deeper scrape on your estate, and that will also connect right into Jira Service Management and create a fabulous asset management or database or CMDB, however you would like to call it. Keeping them, keeping it up to date would have to be through those discovery tools, but also when you need to make manual updates. There are a couple of different ways to do that. One is through, of course, the automation that we shared earlier. When you're onboarding, someone and you're assigning assets, that is the way to do it, is through automation for sure. But also, you can use that same idea to allow non-licensed users to make updates to assets from the customer portal. So you can also allow people to make updates to, key records within that CMDB. Integrations that Bav was talking about, integrations can make updates to that CMDB and that asset management database as well. I probably forgot something. Bav, do you want to add to that?
I think generally this is a really hot topic at the moment around asset management, keeping your CMDB up to date, and actually around data migration, data transfer, onboarding, offboarding. It all kind of wraps together really in a sense. I think the only thing I'd add certainly around assets and CMDB is absolutely there's automated methods. Device 42, which we're spending more and more time on is a great product, and they're constantly iterating as well. Where I think of IT operation, kind of IT hardware objects, if you're integrating with things like SCCM or an MDM solution, you could have regular jobs, which mean that they search their internal database and update the assets within asset management on an evening, kind of a push request or something like that. So that can do things like, let's say if it's an MDM solution, it goes kind of a bit deep on IT objects, but let's say the last logged in user or the owner of an asset or the OS that's on an asset. If we're talking about people records and your Active Directory is a source of truth, then it's a similar sort of thing. You could have something which kind of pulls an update from Active Directory. So let's say if someone's department changes and the updates are done in Active Directory rather than Jira, then it could update asset management, in the cloud as well. But you can run a job which would update those assets. So you're keeping a regular touch point, whether that's a daily update or a weekly update, something like that. And the only other thing I'd add to that is, again, data transfer, data migration, super hot topic right now. When we've done data migrations or project implementations which involve some form of data migration, so the first implementation or a regular update, there are different tools that can do things. You can get tools which automate that heavy lifting to take that pain away from you as part of the migration, or you can use a more simpler data transfer method like a JSON file or a CSV file. We certainly, Valiantis, has performed a lot of data migrations, and we're always looking at different ways of doing it and better approaches on how we can do that to make it more streamlined and smooth for the customer at the end of it. We've even had a request for data to be updated and manipulated mid-flight, so from its source to its destination. And I'll point out to the Valiantis website here. So Valiantis, on our website, we've got a really good ebook which refers to the best practices of data migration for ITSM legacy tools. So if you go to our website and go to the resources section, you'll find it under there. It's a book written by Erica. There we go.
Yeah. It was written by me. Yeah. So go check out the link that, and go build your business case. We can help you with that. We can help you with your implementation. Give us a shout at the email address that is on the screen, hello@valiantis.com. And Laura, I think we are just about out of time. The last seconds to go. Back to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much to both yourself and Bab for answering the questions. We've obviously reached the time. We might be slightly over. I can see David ready to pounce on us.
No, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just want to say a final thank you to everybody that's joined us today, all the questions that you've asked, for SITS and the organisation team. David, it's been great to work with you guys. And an even bigger thank you again to Erin and Bav for showcasing how we can empower excellent service for all teams. So thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you. Laura's just summed it up absolutely perfectly. So thank you to everyone for attending. Thank you to the team at Valiantis. If you missed anything at all, you want to watch the webinar again or share it with your team, it's available to download from our website by the end of the week. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you our next webinars, bits and pieces coming up in the autumn. So we'll keep in touch. But thanks, guys. Have a good rest of your day. Cheers now.
Thanks. Bye.